the big transitions, and obviously Ireland is much smaller than the United States, but even the economy now has been much more transitioned to very Western focus as far as its imports and exports. Obviously, immigration, as far as I can trust headlines, not being there. What's undergone too is not just a change in, well, for a couple of years we had policies on social distancing and policies on restaurants, but the entire economic fabric of a people that for hundreds of years have occupied this place has pretty much overnight been changed, correct? Would that be an accurate way to describe it?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, everything about our country, it's clear that there has been a determined attempt to reinvent the entire West and to impose on it all kinds of things that really are incredible, really, not almost, but are incredible. I mean, this idea of the mass migration, it isn't even mass migration, it's mass plantation.
Hmm.
It's the coercive replacement, in effect, of our number. And then certainly in Ireland, that's the case. I mean, Ireland is now terminally ill, and
Hmm.
I mean that literally. You know, we used to say 7 or 8 years ago when we first began to sort of really talk about this quite openly, myself and some friends, we said that, by the way things were going then, Ireland would be, the Irish people would be a minority in their own country by 2050. Well, I'm very sad to say that we were completely wrong about that, because now the chances are that that will happen before 2035, if not by 2030. The
Hmm.
numbers are increasing of outsiders becoming in is increasing and is swelling at such a rate that and nobody can trust the statistics they're being given, because to look at any streetscape you wouldn't even think, they tell us it's 25% are now non-national. Well, I'm sorry, if you look at any urban
Hmm.
streetscape, you're thinking it's something like 70%.
Yeah. What blows my mind, and it makes me angry, and others have pointed this out too, the people were never asked. Well, one of at least, if you could try to sum up some of the benefits, or at least the good things we have going for us since World War II, is that typically in the West, most nations would be democratic. That would refer to, theoretically, the people themselves and their rule, their will, is what's being exercised. That when we in the United States we elect representatives and they represent our will. But whether it be here in the United States, whether it be the UK, or whether it be Ireland, we were never asked. And as we ask for it to stop, as anyone that basically runs on an anti immigration party typically enjoys decent success, then they get in office, they refuse to carry it out. Or if we're here in the United States, even our own representatives, our own senators refusing to vote to strip Medicaid, that is health benefits, from those who are here illegally. We were never asked. We're telling them we don't want it to continue, and they say it sounds like you want more. Which is, I mean, can you think of something more totalitarian and coercive? We will take, in the case of Ireland, this historic Christian English, or not English, but a European nation, and we will dispossess it and we will make it a land of foreigners. We don't want that. It's having all these downstream effects. We don't care.
That's right. It's the contempt of this is the most, I suppose, scarifying aspect of all of this, that the demeanor and the visage of the political class has changed utterly from what it was 6 or 7 years ago.
Hmm.
That they now look at their own people, their indigenous peoples, in all countries I see, pretty much. Maybe not in the United States, certainly not President Trump. It doesn't do that. But most European countries, certainly, France, Germany, Britain, Ireland. The leaders of the so-called leaders of the political establishment, they look upon those who vote for them as, animals almost. They have this
Yeah.
total contempt for them, total disregard for their opinions. They tell them ridiculous lies. Like they tell them that, for example, that they have an international obligation to take in outsiders. Well, I say nobody, and then there's no discussion. Those of us who have something to ask or question to any question to pose to these people are never permitted near them. Like, because the obvious question is, well, if you have an international obligation, how come Ireland has taken in pro rata double what its nearest competitor, as it were, in this context, has brought in the last 25 years? In other words, we have twice as many as the second country in that league, which is Spain. And yet we're told that this is an international obligation. Well, how come this international obligation is not shared by other countries in Europe? And they don't have to answer such questions because nobody in the public square asked them, is permitted to ask them. And so the public are there thinking, well, I I don't like this, but I better keep my mouth shut because I'm going to sound like a racist. And
Right.
that's the way it's done. And but you see, the other point is really that many people just don't get that this is terminal. They can't imagine such a thing.
Mm.
You don't need to be much of a mathematician to see when you look at the inflows, when you look at the proportions. Like, I mean, I'll just give you off the top of my head, a figure I saw recently by the Central Statistics Office, which said that the numbers of people the increase in the Irish population between 2019 and last year breaks down as follows: 94% is alien,
Ugh.
and 6% is indigenous. The
Oof.
increase. Now, how long do you think a country like ours can survive with those kind of metrics?
Wow.
And even if you took relatively compatible people, say you took England to Germany, so 94%, like you said, over the last 5 years of Germany's growth, say it was just from England, that alone would cause massive problems. But from the
Yeah.
third world of integration, of language, of jobs, and to root it in the title of your book, when asked, this is going terribly. Look at what's happening to our children, especially in England. And the politicians literally say, why would you believe your lying eyes over the soothing, kind, anti-racist words and rhetoric that I'm telling you?
Well, and then there's the Islamic question, because I mean this is something that is not really discussed either, because look at Lebanon, like, which in back 80 years ago was a completely white population. Now and when it began to expand and migrants started to come in, particularly Muslims, the indigenous population said, "Oh, well, we're a tolerant people. We're going to integrate with our newcomers, and we're going to share power. And if we'll have a white president, but we're going to have a Muslim prime minister. Yes, certainly." And that was all very well until the other side became the majority, and then it all changed.
Hmm.
And that's what happens. That's what happens. The idea, people just reflute. You see, one of the things they do is they demonize certain concepts so that um, by using certain words, you set off all kinds of alarms. Like if you say replacement, which I do, or if you say invasion, which I do, or if you say plantation, which I do. And I take the view that, if you want to know what are the most important words to use, then look at the words they're telling you can't use, because they're the ones they want to suppress so that people don't get to hear them. But this is really, I say to people, this is how it is. That the way things are going, your children will not have a homeland in which to lay their heads and call their own.
And this
The
didn't
people here,
happen. Go
yeah,
ahead.
the people coming here from other countries, whatever the conditions in those countries, they have homelands to return to.
Right.
We won't have any place to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's so tragic about all of it. Yeah, those of European descent in Western countries, they don't have another home to go to. You're exactly right. We're going to go to our